Hello, I hope I'm audible. I hope all of y'all can hear me. We'll be starting at 7:10 p.m., okay? We'll wait for we'll wait a little bit longer. So may I know what is your A-level year? Like, are y'all sitting for A-levels next month or from 2027 or 8? Y'all can send messages. Most of y'all doing it like next month. You all must have already done the lesson, so I don't think it'll be difficult then. Only 4 has answered, no? What about the others? So do most of y'all have the tudes? Like all of y'all, did y'all get it printed? Like did y'all attempt the questions? Okay, so good evening. I hope all of y'all can hear me. So we'll be starting the seminar. Right. So then, yes, today's topic is support and movement. So I hope all of y'all are ready. Okay. Right. So before we get into the topic, okay, I wanted to give you all certain tips about ALs. Okay. Now, I don't want it to be boring, right? So I'm not going to dive right into the lesson. So just going to give you all tips as to how you can, increase your marks at this point. Okay. Let me share my screen. Right. Okay. So some of you might be already for some people it would be MCQ, it would be okay, anyways. Let's see how to get it done. Okay, so now this might be useful for the people who, like, if you're starting A levels, this stuff might be useful for y'all. But then now, since y'all are like going to do it uh, next month, maybe you can use these techniques in areas where you find it difficult to memorize or difficult to keep in your mind. Okay, so first of all, if you want to write an essay, or if you want to understand a concept properly, you'll have to first of all, like, okay, so yeah, writing essays basically, so you have to understand the concept. Okay, so now before understanding it, if you're just going to be sitting down and if you're going to be reading it again and again, no, that's not how it's going to work, right? Now, when I went into A levels, okay, people did advise me, but what they told me was, like, they were like, okay, you have to get 3 A's for A levels, okay, if you want to get into medicine. So I wanted to do medicine, and that's what they told me. And they were like, you're supposed to enter into this university, right? And 3 A's, and then you're supposed to go to 3 different classes for each subject. So that's what they actually told me, and they didn't tell me how to get it done. Like, they didn't tell me how to get an A, right? No. So I have, put all these points what I used to get in getting my A, right? So first of all, yes, the concept. So now, for example, even if it's about diffusion or transpiration or whatever it is, right? You will have to understand the concept first before you memorize. So you can watch videos for that, or you can go on to Google and hold on. Okay. So you can, search it up, like do a little bit of research on it, or if you have access to Campbell Biology. So in when I did my A levels, it was Diana School Library, but then you can also download the soft copy, right? So you can read that, and I think it's better if you take a look at the diagrams in Campbell Biology. So since y'all are doing the exams next month, most of y'all, right? You can maybe get a soft copy of that, or even, you know, pictures on the internet is fine as long as you understand, right? So you can take a look at it, and you can study through diagrams, right? So biology, I wouldn't suggest sitting down and just reading the material, right? What I suggest is, you know drawing diagrams, learning through diagrams, and making short notes. That's how you can grasp things, right? And the second thing is, knowing the exact words, right? So to memorize the exact words, you have to write essays. Now, for example, let's say you want to study about linear electron flow, right? So you can watch a YouTube video or something like that, and let's say, okay, you have an idea on how to do it, you know the diagrams and everything. So you sit down and you read it at least, if the paragraph, okay, you can read it like thrice. Okay, so don't be hasty, don't be fast. Okay, just sit down and relax and read it slowly. Take your time, read it slowly, and then write your essays. Okay, the first time, if you don't get the particular mark that you're looking for, you can always do it again. So you can write it a second time. Okay, so if the first time, if you did not do it properly, then you can do it the second time. Okay, why? Because it's very important in MCQs. You all must have noticed this, right? Like, there might be an MCQ. Okay, for example, let's say something like definition of symbiosis, they would give you the exact same wordings, but then like one word would be different. And then you might be like, okay, you wouldn't just read it, like just go through it and you're like, okay, fine, like most of the words are here, so this must be correct, and you would just mark it, right? But no, okay, that will be wrong. Why? Because one word would be different. So which is why it's very important to know the exact words, okay, which is why you have to practice by writing essays. Okay, I know it's annoying, okay, it's very annoying, but then you will have to do it. Okay, so yeah, like I mentioned, linear electron flow, you have to write the essays, that way you know the exact words. So if there's an essay on it, you can do it. If there's an MCQ, yes, you can do it easily, right? So the main way you can increase marks for MCQs is, I think, by practicing essays in every section that you'll be studying, right? So if you practice the essays, you know the exact words, and then when you get the MCQ paper, everything just comes automatically, like what is what, right? You know the exact words. And then finally, active recalling is very, very, very important, right? So that I think the mistake that not only me, like most of my friends did, like what we made was like every day you should at least allocate 4 hours for biology. Okay, if you cannot allocate 4 hours, at least 2 hours. Okay, like especially these days. Like if you're having, let's say, a physics exam or a chemistry exam, what we would do is we would completely abandon biology and we would go on studying physics or go on doing chemistry. Yes, you can perform better in the chemistry test, yes, you can get good marks in physics, but then your biology marks will drop. But then if biology is also important for Z score. I know physics and chemistry are very important, but then some people, they would get A's for chemistry and physics and they would get a C for biology, which would lower their Z score. So that is very sad, right? So you have to keep everything in balance. So yes, so active recalling is very important. So I think I suggest using flashcards. Using flashcards are very important. And also a method that me and my friends use, so we would call each other, okay, and no, please do not have, you can do this method, okay, but please don't have unnecessary conversations because that is not going to help you. Okay, like you can call each other and you can quiz each other, okay, just randomly. Okay, since y'all are doing it like next month, okay, so you all would have probably finished the entire syllabus by now. I hope you all have. Okay, so then you can just open a random page and ask the question. Okay, so if you do that, you guys can remember facts from different areas, and yeah, it will be easy for you on the exam. Okay, and the next one is about writing essays. Okay, so I wanted to show an example as well. Okay, so first of all, what you do is you select a particular topic. I hope this was clear for y'all. I hope y'all understood this part. Like y'all got the points, right? Can y'all like react or something, or maybe drop a text saying that it was clear? Okay, only one person is there. What about the others? All right. Okay. So moving on, essays. Okay. So now, for example, let's take a topic. Um, okay, electrophoresis, right? So if you have an essay on electrophoresis, what are you gonna do? So you can take the book and you can either like write all the points down. Okay, so you can take a piece of paper and write it down, or you can in the paper in point form. So let me all can hear me now. I'm so sorry, there was a problem. All right, so I hope you can see my screen. Can you see it? Okay. So now, this is how I practiced for an essay. Okay, so boring. So what I would do is I would actually type it down. Even writing doesn't work for me. Okay, so I would, now this is an essay that I've given you guys, right? So I would type down the points. So these are the points. Okay, so I would prepare my own marking scheme and I would type it down and I would remember certain key words. Okay, so now you should do all of the above steps that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so watch videos, get the concept, read the material again and again. Okay, and get the idea, and then you have to write it this way. Okay, in point forms, because memorize, keeping things mind in point forms is going to be so much better, so much easier than studying it from paragraphs. It's going to be boring and exhausting, and you won't get things as well, right? And what you do is, after doing this, you have to remember the key words from each sentence. Okay. For example, in this case, it's repeating contract. Sorry for that, right? So you have to remember certain keywords in each of the sentences, right? So in the first one, it is repeating contractile units, and the second one, it's striated muscle cells. Then third one, so the word is compost. Okay, so now when I say compost, okay, you should get the idea of what you're trying to remember. You're like, okay, so now you remember the keyword compost. So now the sarcomere is going to be composed of myofibrils, okay, which is going to be containing thick filaments and thin filaments. So you have to remember that. Okay, now the word is compost, but when you remember that word, all of these things should flow in automatically, right? So if you remember that sentence, you're going to be getting 2 points, right? And the next one, thick filaments, and then you have M lines. And then sarcomeres are found repeatedly between two Z lines and skeletal muscle cell. Okay, so you're supposed to remember keywords like this. So if you remember it like this, then it's going to be. That doesn't mean you have to sit down and memorize these keywords. Okay, so like when you're studying for the essay and writing the essay, just keep these words in your mind. Okay, that way it's going to be better. Did you all understand that? I'm sorry for the interruptions. There's like a lot of people in my house. I hope you all got that. Or do you want me to repeat? Hello, can you hear me? Okay then. So I think it's better if you're studied this way. Okay. Don't think that it's time consuming. Okay. Don't ever think that what's the point in doing this? Okay. It's going to be wasting a lot of time. Okay. We are in the last movement. Okay. Yes, you are in the last moment. Yes. But you have to get things done. So by now, you all must have gotten like a lot of target questions, right? Target essays. Um, my advice is, don't go behind target essays, but go behind target topics, right? You don't have to go behind target essays, but go behind the topics. Okay, now, for example, if they say that, homeostasis could be, a topic that is going to be tested, and if they give you, let's say, an essay topic as to how temperature is going to be controlled in the human body, okay, don't just go study only about that. Okay, study about, the other parts as well, right? So then just study the entire topic, like all the essays that comes under that, study everything, so that way it's going to be easier. Okay, so that's why don't go behind the essays, go behind the topics, because most of my friends, I think some of them, right, they actually, what they did was they studied only the essay topics that were given. And yeah, and when it didn't come for the exam, they were like disappointed. So which is why you'll have to study the topics, right? So now when my sirs, like, when I came across these target topics, right, what I did was I studied like everything that came under the topic. So I didn't go behind essays. I went behind the topics, and like most of it came for the exam. So I think y'all can do that as well. Yes, you can. Don't entirely depend on target as well. You can depend when it comes to the essays, okay? Because at this point, some of y'all might be feeling helpless. Yes, but don't go behind the essays. Go behind the topics. Okay. Okay. So I hope that was clear. Do you all want? Do you all have any questions regarding essays? You can ask that. Any issues with essays? You can hear me, right? No? Okay. So I hope you understood that part. Please don't study target essays, but study target topics. Okay, that will work for you, not the essays, right? And finally, how you're gonna do MCQs? Okay. So, like I mentioned earlier, if you're going to be studying the essays. Okay. So if you studied essays, then MCQs is going to be nothing. Like MCQ, structured essays. Structured essays are going to be very easy, but then when it comes to structured essays, you have to use your brain, right? So you can't take more than 15 minutes for a structured essay. You have to try to complete it within 1 hour. Okay, if you can, maybe you can take 1 hour, 10 minutes, but don't go beyond that. Okay, maximum 15 minutes per essay, like per structured essay, right? So then if you have to do structured essays, you have to practice a lot of past papers, yes. But then if you do essays, writing structured essays is going to be easy. So the next trick is MCQs. So most of the people, okay, the ones who get really good marks in essays, sometimes they flop MCQs. I don't know how that happens, but some do. I've seen people like that, right? And some people who are very good at MCQs, they can't do the essays. So that's a problem. I feel like structured is okay with everybody. Like everyone is fine with structured, but this is a problem. So yeah, if you study by writing these essays, MCQs are going to be nothing because you already know the facts. And the second one is how you can improve your marks. Okay, so this is how I did it. So I think my marks went from 25, like 26, 27, all the way to 40s within like 1.5 months. Okay, so this is what I did. I wrote reviews. Now, when you say that you're supposed to write reviews for a particular MCQ, right? What most of the people do is they write essays. Okay, no, reviews are supposed to be short, like basically like a short note, okay, so that you can keep things in your mind. So just don't go write the whole thing. Like for example, let me show you this. Okay, so I took these questions from 2024 paper, right? So the first one is about mitochondria. Okay, now let's say you're doing this MCQ about mitochondria and you got it wrong. So what are you gonna do? Okay, y'all are going to be like, okay, fine, now I got this wrong, which means I'm not okay with unit 2. Okay, so you think, okay, just because you couldn't answer a single question for mitochondria, that you are not okay with unit 2. And what are you going to do? You're going to go back and start studying the entire unit 2. Now, that is time wasting. Okay, like some people do that. Okay, and it's scary. So don't do it. Okay, I remember one of my friend doing it. Okay, so even though I told her, she didn't listen to me, right? So she did that. No, please don't do that. Like, look, the next one, it's about telophase. Okay, it's about meiosis, right? So just because you cannot answer the question about meiosis, Okay, doesn't mean you have to go all the way and study the entire unit too. Don't do that. Okay, so this is what I did. If I don't understand mitochondria, I would open my textbook and I would only study about mitochondria, and I will write my own review. And also remember, when you are writing the reviews, don't copy paste. Okay, this is not copywriting or handwriting. Okay, just close the textbook and write your own reviews in your own words. Okay, that's how you can keep things in your mind. Okay, so please don't do copywriting and do write the reviews. Okay, don't be lazy. Just let's say you get it wrong and then you go back to the textbook and then you just go through and you're like, okay, fine, I got the idea. I'm okay with it. And you close it and then you're fine with it. No, don't be like that. Do it. Okay. Even if you get it correct, it's fine. It's okay if you got it correct, because sometimes you can, make a mistake the next time. So please go back, study the section, and then do it. Okay. So now, yes, this is what I took from the resource book. So if you got that MCQ correct or wrong, you go back, you study about mitochondria, okay, and then all of these things, you don't have to write an essay question or anything, right? Whatever you remember about it, write the review, make it short and sweet, and then yes, drawing the diagram is so much better. That way you can keep things in your mind. And as for the next question, okay, meiosis, you're only going to be studying meiosis, right? Meiosis, and you don't have to study mitosis, right? Because this is about meiosis only. So only study meiosis and the diagrams and stuff. So I included some pictures. So this is not usually how I write the reviews. Okay, so these are like my notes. It's kind of untidy. So I actually maintained a separate book for something called MCQ points. Okay, so I remember in my chemistry class, right, our sir, he used to give us MCQ points. And then I thought, okay, why can't I try this for biology? And I did, and it really worked. Okay, so like I would go through, like when I do a lesson, when I feel like, okay, like these areas could be tested, I would actually take notes on it. So this was my book. And then when I came across that particular MCQ about meiosis and mitosis, this is what I wrote down. So you can see these are the sections where we get confused, right? Like we don't know where the nuclear fragment is going to be, the nuclear envelope is going to be, fragmenting. And we don't know, we can't, like sometimes we confuse as to when the centromeres are going to be reaching the opposite poles. Okay, because it's going to be different in mitosis and meiosis. So I think doing this will actually, keep things in your mind. Like this is how you write reviews actually. So it's short and you have the idea, and the next time when the same question comes, you can actually answer it. So instead of going back and writing essays, you can actually do this. So do you all get that? Hello, you're also quiet. Like, can you all react or something? Okay, okay then. So you can also use this method. It's not too late. Okay, it's never too late. Even now, you can pull your book out and start writing these points. Okay, so that's not a problem. Uh, get it done. Okay, so this is how you write MCQ reviews. Okay, and then this. So let's come to this. So how are you going to get an A? Okay. So the first one is mainly for the people who are really good at essays. So if you have gone through the marking scheme, right? Sometimes they would give you 35 points or 36 points. And if you get, so out of 35 or 36, you have to write 34 points. And if you write all that, you can get 150 marks. Okay, so if you are, and sometimes they would give you like almost 40 points. Okay, they would give you almost 40 points, and if you write around, I think, 35, you will be getting 148 marks. But if you write extra points, like if you have written more than 37, they will give you 2 marks extra and they would make it 150. Okay, so you guys have to go through the marking scheme and understand how that works. Okay, like it's better if you'll do it now, as in like this time period. So if you want to go for an A with low MCQ marks, then you have to have a good marks in your essays. Okay, so take a look at this. If you get, let's say, just 35 MCQs right, you have to get above 30s, right? So let's say 35 right, and then structured, you have to maintain an average of 80. Okay, an average of 80 in the sense, mostly I feel like the first two are easy. Like, what do you guys think? In structured essay, which one do you all find difficult mostly? For me, it was the fourth one. What about y'all? Yes, yeah, it's mostly the fourth one. Yeah, third can be a little bit difficult. It's about animals, no? For me, it's actually the fourth one because you have so many lessons, especially the grade 13 one. So yeah. Yes, so like, if you can score better in the first two structured essays, like if you can get at least 90, 95, if you score around 70 for the fourth one, that's not a problem. Okay, because you have to maintain an average of 80, right? Not like 80 in everything, an average. Okay, so if you have 90, much better. So if you have these scores, yes, you can go for an A. Now the second one is for the people with good MCQ marks. Okay, so like I told you, if you actually write reviews, trust me, it works. Okay, like if you're not going to believe me, it's fine, go do it for yourself and see how it works, right? So if you get more than 40, again you have to maintain an average of 80 for structured essay. It's going to be nothing, right? And look at the essays, you just have to get 95 or 100. That is like approximately only 23 points. So if they have given you around 34 points, okay, you should only get 23 right, and come on, you're going to get an A. So this will work for you if you increase your MCQ mark. So isn't that easy? So you don't have to suffer for essays. You just have to get 95 or something like that. Or just think about the points, just 23 points right. And then you can go for an A. So these are the two methods, based on what you're comfortable with, okay, based on which area you're good at, you can select, okay, whatever you like, and you can go for an A. Did y'all get that? Hello. Right. Okay. Okay, then so we'll be starting off with the topic now. So do you all want like a 5 minute break or something? Or shall we continue? Okay. Okay, I hope you can see my screen. So this website is called in www dot what is it, innerbody.com. So you can use this to study the anatomy as well, okay, because it's very useful, right? You can rotate the diagram, because I don't think all of you all have like the skeleton. So then yeah, you can use this. So we will be doing the skeletal system this way, and the other sections we will go to the MCQs and structured essays, and through that we will be doing the other parts, right? So this is, I'm just going to be explaining about the axial and appendicular skeleton. So I want answers from you guys. I want you all to be interactive. Okay. May I know how many bones form the cranium? How many bones form the cranium? Can you answer that question? I said the cranium. Yes, 8 bones, correct. What about the face? Mm, no, no, not 14. Not 14. Not 14. See, this is what I was saying. You should know the exact words. Not 14. It's 15. 15 is the answer. Look at the statement in your book. It says, addition to the frontal bone, 14 other bones form the skeleton of the face. So that's 14 plus 1, 15. So see if there's going to be an MCQ, asking for the number of bones. And if it says 14, I would probably mark that as correct. So it's 15. Okay. All right. Trying to explain. May I know the two bones of the cranium which are not paired? Two bones of the cranium which are not paired. What are the two bones which are not paired? Where are y'all? Y'all are here, right? I can see 15 people. Not 15, 14. Yeah, 14 people are there. Are y'all still here? Come on, I need answers. No, I said unpaired, right? Unpaired bones. Yeah, yes. Frontal, ethmoid, sphenoid, and occipital. It's okay, it's okay. Pay attention to the question. So yeah, this is where we go wrong. Anyways, let's look at the cranium. So there are 8 bones forming the cranium. Okay, so you have the frontal bone, right? And then here you have the occipital bone. I hope you can see my mouse, right? So that is the occipital bone. And these are the two parietal bones. Okay, this one. So this is the parietal, okay, and parietal bones come in pairs, right? So you have two parietal bone, and then you have two temporal bone. This is a temporal bone, okay, so you can see that it's connected to the ear, right? Temporal bone, and the one next to it. This is sphenoid, right? This bone is sphenoid, and the one here is ethmoid. This is temporal bone, that's occipital bone. Then you have parietal bone, and this is the frontal bone. So remember, frontal bone is common for both the cranium as well as the face. Okay, so it's a common bone, and remember the number of bones which forms the face. Okay, it's 15, not 14, because resource book says, along with the frontal bone, 14 other bones are going to be forming the facial bone. Okay, so please remember it's 15. Okay, not 14. Right. So I think I'm making this fast because most of y'all know it, right? So frontal, sphenoid, ethmoid, and then temporal bone, occipital bone, and parietal bone, right? So let me go here. Now, how many? So yeah, I told that 15, right? So now let's talk about the mandible. Okay. So take a look at the mandible. So there are two processes. You all can see that, right? So mandible is the only movable bone in the human skull. Okay, and it has two processes. One, two, right? So can you tell me what's the first one called? What is the name given to it? Y'all can use the chat option and tell me. What is that called? Okay, let's see. Yes, coronoid process. And the second one is called condyloid process, right? So you should remember that condyloid process, okay, is articulating with the temporal bone to form the temporal mandibular joint. Okay, so then this coronoid process, they are to, provide a surface for muscle attachment, while condyloid process is going to be articulating with the temporal bone, okay, to form the movable joint. So remember that, okay, that's important. Okay, so I hope y'all got that. And then the 15 facial bones. So I'm not going to be labeling everything because it's going to be time consuming. So I hope you all got the important parts. Okay. Now I want you all to answer this question. Okay. Give me the name of the two bones which form the face. Okay. But it's going to be occurring as single bones, not as pairs. What are they? There are three actually. Can you give me the name of all three? Bones which form the facial region, but they do not occur in pairs. Bones that form the facial region, but they don't occur in pairs. They occur as single bones. Yes, very good. The frontal, mandible, and the vomer. Okay, so that's what you have to know. I'm not sure if they would actually ask you to label all the bones, but just better if you remember what are the bones. Okay, that's present in the skull, right? Then, so this is the axial skeleton, right? So you all know what belongs to axial skeleton: the skull, the vertebral column, the ribs, along with the sternum. So we go below. Okay. Now, the sternum has three parts. All right. So this part is called the body, and sorry, this part is called the manubrium. Sorry about that. This part is called the manubrium, and this part is going to be the body, right? And this part is going to be the xiphoid process. Okay. Now, can you all tell me what does the manubrium articulate with? It's going to be articulating with two structures. Can you tell me what it is? Come on, you all must have done this. Yes, the clavicles and how many ribs? Um, yeah, the first two pairs. Whoa. Okay, good. Okay, that's a good answer. Yes, okay. Right. And then so I hope you all remember that. Okay, so let's see how the ribs are articulated. So I hope, and also remember xiphoid process, it does not articulate with any ribs. Okay, xiphoid process doesn't articulate with any ribs. Only the manubrium, which is the head, and the body does. Okay, now and also manubrium articulates with the clavicles and the first pair of ribs. Right. Now let's take a look at the ribs. Okay, so the type of vertebra that is going to be articulating with the ribs, what is it called? What is the type of vertebra that's going to be articulating with the ribs? Thoracic vertebra, right? So thoracic vertebra is going to be articulating with the ribs. And the first seven pairs of ribs are going to be called as true ribs, okay, because they're going to be directly articulating with the sternum. The first seven pairs. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so there is a direct articulation. So the first seven ribs, we are going to be calling them as true ribs. Okay, because they are going to be directly articulating with the sternum. And then the next three are going to be indirectly articulating with the sternum. Okay, so you can see that these ones, okay, they have their like own cartilage, right? They have their own cartilage. But look at the next three. Use a different color to show that. The next three are being indirectly articulated. So you can see that it's indirect. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the first seven pairs are going to be called as true ribs because they're directly articulating with the sternum, while the next three are going to be indirectly articulating with the sternum. Okay, and then the last two ribs are just there. Okay, they are not articulating with anything. So they are called floating ribs. Okay, so look at this. You can see that the last two, they're just floating. See, they're not joining with anything, they're just there, right? So you have to remember that out of the 12 pairs, 7 are called true ribs, and the next 3 are going to be indirectly articulating, while the last 2 are just floating. Okay, so they are called as floating ribs. All right. So did y'all get that? And at the back, it's going to be articulating with the thoracic vertebra. Okay, only the thoracic vertebra. Okay, so did y'all get that? Yeah, costal cartilage. Okay. Then, so we will be doing the vertebrates separately. So let's move on to the limb bones now. Okay, or we'll just do this and go there. Right. So the spine, human spine, is going to be formed by 26 linearly arranged bones. Okay. So 26 linearly arranged bones. So we have the first 7 cervical vertebra, then the next 12 thoracic vertebra, and the last 5 lumbar vertebra, and sacrum as well as coccyx. So that makes it 26, right? So without sacrum and coccyx, it's just 24, but then the answer is 26. So this has come in MCQs like several times, okay, like the numbers, whether if it's 26 or 24. So remember, the number is going to be 26. All right. So let's see how this is going to be formed. Okay, these joints. So let's go to the limb joints. Okay, so this one right here. What is it called? What is this joint called? It's called a ball and socket joint. Yes, and it's incomplete ball and socket joint. Okay, so it's not like an entirely like a cup shape. Okay, where the scapula is going to be articulated with the head of the femur. Sorry, head of the humerus. Okay, so it's not like a complete, it's not a complete cup sort of thing. Okay, so it's like it's an incomplete ball and socket joint, right? And this is a scapula. Okay, so that articulates with the head of the humerus to form the incomplete ball and socket joint. Okay, so when you come lower, you can see that the distal end of the humerus is going to be having two articular surfaces. Okay, so I saw this is in an MCQ as well. Okay, so the one that is here, okay, this is called the proximal end. Okay, and then all the way down, right, this is going to be called as the distal end, and it's going to be containing two articular surfaces, right? So that's how radius and ulna are going to be joining. Okay, so it has two articular surfaces, right? So we come below and we have the wrist joint. Okay, so can you all tell me how the wrist joint is formed? So that's the radius. This is the ulna. So this is important. Tell me how the wrist joint is formed. Okay, so the wrist joint is going to be formed by the radius, okay, that's going to be articulating with three proximal carpal bones. Okay, so wrist joint is going to be formed by articulating radius with three proximal carpal bones. Okay, and remember that it's a hinge joint, the wrist joint. Okay, so I can't see it clearly in here, but remember that it's three proximal carpal bones. Okay, so how many? We have 8 carpal bones. Out of that, the ones that's arranged in the front row, like the three proximal carpal bones, they are going to be articulating with the radius, okay, in order to form the wrist joint. Okay, now the wrist joint is going to be helping, like the wrist perform a particular function. Two things actually. What is that called? These questions are in the structured essay paper. The wrist joint allows something. What is that? Yeah, distal end of the radius with three proximal carpal bones. Yeah, so like this feature, yes. Pronation and supination. So pronation and supination is going to be done by the wrist joint. And if there's a question asking you to explain how it's formed, then you have to mention this. Okay, so right. Then we have five metacarpal bones. Okay, one, two, three, four, five, and then you have 14 phalanges. Okay, so which finger has just two phalanges? All the finger has three except for one finger that only has two. What is that finger? Yes, the thumb. The thumb just has two phalanges. Very good. Okay, now there are three important things that you have to remember in this particular section. Okay, one is pronation, supination. Okay, so what helps you do that? It's the wrist joint. Second one and the third one is power grip and precision grip. Okay, so two different things, power grip and precision grip. So tell me, what helps you do the power grip? Okay, so like, try to grab something using your hand and, tell me what you're going to be using for the power grip. No, not thumb, power grip. You can grab things without your thumb, right? Can you? No, like I'm asking, what are the bones which are important to do the power grip? It is your metacarpal bones and your phalanges. Okay, your your metacarpal bones and your phalanges are important for power grip. All right, I hope you got that. Okay, the second one is precision grip. What helps you do the precision grip? This is important. If you all can, I want the exact wordings as to what helps you do the precision grip. Yes, people. Okay, so what helps you do the precision grip? Okay, is the joint that is present at the base of the thumb, okay, between the first metacarpal bone and a specific carpal bone. Okay, so there's a joint present at the base of your thumb between the metacarpal bone and a specific carpal bone. So that helps you do the precision grip. Okay, so you have to keep these three things in mind because it can appear in MCQs. Okay, sometimes they can give you, they can tell you that phalanges and metacarpal bones are going to be helping you do the precision grips. That's wrong. It's the power grip. Okay, so don't get confused in that area. Keep that in mind, right? Okay, then um, let's move on to the limbs. Okay, the lower limb. Okay, now this particular joint, okay, that is going to be between the head of the femur and the acetabulum of the pectoral of the pelvis bone, right? So this is called the pectoral girdle. So I want you to tell me, what is this joint called? What do you call this joint? It's a ball and socket joint. Yes, it's a complete ball and socket joint. Okay, so this time the head of the femur is going to be completely getting attached into the acetabulum of the pelvic bone. Okay, so it's a complete one, not an incomplete one, right? So, and also, femur is the longest and heaviest bone of the body, right? So, I hope you all got that. Okay, now moving on to the formation of knee. Okay, so the knee joint is important in performing one function. Okay, not a function. It's important for one thing. What is that? Like, for example, if you take the hip joint is a very sturdy structure. It helps to maintain, bear all your body weight when you're standing or when you're running. Okay, so it's a very important, like joint, the hip joint, right? So similarly, the knee joint is also important for something. What is it important for? Yes, yes, very good. So to stand upright for a long period of time, then you need the knee joint, okay? And the bones, uh, yeah, well, yeah, weight bearing, okay, but then I feel like standing upright for a long time is like the perfect answer, okay? So yes, so weight bearing is also there, but then standing upright position is a better answer, okay? So like there are three bones which are going to be forming the knee joint, okay? That is the distal end of the femur, tibia, and patella. Okay, so why not fibula, right? So take a look at this. So now, can you see this? Okay, this is the knee joint. Okay, and I want you to take a look at the bones which are involved. Okay, look at this. We have the distal end of the femur, we have the patella, and this is going to be the tibia. Okay, so you can see this is fibula, right? Here, right here, you have fibula, but fibula is not at all connected at all. So you can see there is no connection between fibula and any of this, because some of us might get confused. So when you look at this diagram, you can see it clearly, right? So you have the distal end of the femur, the tibia, and then the patella. Okay, right. Okay, so I hope you guys got that. Is it clear? Okay, right. So then let's go lower. Okay. So there's another point you'll have to remember here. Okay. Formation of the ankle joint. Okay. So I'm just going through like all the joints. Okay. I'm just randomly teaching. Okay. Not going in like an order. Right. So now tell me, this is a very important MCQ point. Okay. How is the ankle joint formed? Okay. Just tell me what type of a joint it is, ankle joint. What type of a joint is it? Definitely not ball and socket because there are only two ball and socket joints. That is the one in the shoulder and the hip joint. Yes, it's a hinge joint. Okay. So look at the statement. All the lower ends, all the lower ends of fibula and tibia are going to be articulating with the tarsal bone in order to form the ankle joint. Okay. So all the lower ends, all of it. Okay. So all of it is going to be involved in forming the ankle joint. So you have to remember that. Brush is too thick. Okay. All the lower ends. Okay, so all the lower ends of both fibula and tibula are going to be articulating with a specific tarsal bone, okay, to form the ankle joint. Okay, and can you guys tell me how many tarsal bones are there? How many tarsal bones do we have? How many tarsal bones do we have? Yes, we have seven tarsal bones. Okay. All right. Then we are going to be having five metatarsal bones. Two, three, four, five. Okay. And then they're going to be articulating with the phalanges. Okay. To form again hinge joints. All right. So now we have two arcs on the foot. Okay. So we have a longitudinal arc and a transverse arc. Give me a moment. Okay, I'm back. Right. So we have two arcs on the foot. Okay, so that is important to uh balance the body weight when you're either stationary or moving. So I came across this particular MCQ that said the entire statement. Okay, so it said that the arcs in the foot are important for movements. Okay, but then it said only when stationary. So that's a false statement. Okay, so if there's a statement like that, it's wrong. Okay, it should be stationary and moving. So remember those points. So, anyways, the arc that's going to be running all the way from your heel to your toe is going to be called as the longitudinal arc. Okay, and the arc that is going to be running from across your foot like this is going to be called as a transverse arc. Okay, so both are very important to evenly spread out your body weight when you're running, when you're moving or stationary. Okay. Um, right. So I think we covered everything, like all the joints. We have to do ribs. Sorry, the vertebra, right? Okay, let's come to this part. So we have the sacrum and the coccyx. Okay, so remember that the sacrum is going to be formed by five fused rudimentary vertebra. Okay, so there are five. So here you can see here one, two, three, four, five. So it's going to be formed by five fused rudimentary vertebra. Okay, so the top part of it is going to be articulated with the last lumbar vertebra, and the bottom part is going to be articulated with the coccyx. Okay, and coccyx is going to be formed by four bones. So you can see that one, two, three, four. Huge. Okay, so that's four there, and then five there. So remember the numbers as well. Okay, so they can actually play with the numbers also. They can, mess it up. They can give it as four, five. So remember, five fused bones for sacrum and four for coccyx. Okay. So was that clear? Okay. All right. So now let's go to the curves of the spine. I hope the previous part was clear. I hope you all got all the joints, right? Okay. So now uh, the curves of the spine. Okay, so this is important for MCQs. Okay, now take a look at this. We have the primary curve. Okay, so the primary curve is it's what's going to be there in the fetal form. Okay, and it's concave anteriorly. So this is the anterior portion. Okay, this is the anterior portion, and this is going to be concave anteriorly. Okay, so the one that is in this region is going to be the thoracic curve. So the one in this region is the sacral curve. Okay, so thoracic sacral, it is going to be a childbirth. Okay, so it's going to be forming 3 months after childbirth, and it is convex anteriorly. Okay, so you can see that here. I'll use a different color to show that. So look, so when it's convex, Okay, and you still have the other curves. Okay, so now the thoracic curve is here and the sacral curve is here. And then you have the first cervical curve, okay, so in 3 months, and it's going to be convex anteriorly. Okay, so now this cervical curve is very important for the head to stand in an upright position. Okay, for the head to be straight. This is important. And then we are going to be moving on to the second one. That is when you get the lumbar curve. So lumbar curve is something that's going to be forming 7 to 8 months after birth. Okay, and this curve is also convex anteriorly. So let's mark that. So look at this. We have the thoracic curve here. Okay, so remember the lumbar curve is important for the body to stand, like, be upright. For the head to be upright, it is going to be the cervical curve, and for the body to be upright, you need the lumbar curve. Okay, and look at this. So we had the cervical curve here, concave, and the sacral curve, and now the secondary curves. So here you can see cervical and the lumbar curve, convex anteriorly. So if you mark these things in a diagram, it's going to be easy for you to remember and you won't forget. Okay, so like as soon as you get the paper, maybe you can, like, draw a rough sketch, okay, and then you can mark the curves like that and just label them, okay, and like write these points. Okay, so you can put primary for these. Oh, sorry, it's secondary. You can put secondary for these, okay, and then you can put this is going to be forming after 3 months, this is going to be forming after 7 to 8 months. Okay, just a rough sketch so you won't forget the points, okay, when you're doing the MCQ. So this is an important MCQ point, and keep that in mind. I hope you got that. Can I move on? Hello, did y'all get that? Okay, I hope y'all did. Right. Okay. Then next we are going to be doing the I hope I'm audible now. I'm sorry, something went wrong with my network. I hope you can hear me now. Okay. So we'll do this. Okay. So after we are done with the vertebras, you guys can like take a 5 minute break or something. And then we can go to the MCQs and the structured essays. Okay. So I wanted to be interactive, right? So what is this called? This particular vertebra? Okay, the name is right there. Fine. A typical vertebra. Okay. A lumbar vertebra. So you can say that it has a prominent body, okay, that is mainly present for it to articulate with the other vertebrae, okay. And then we have a vertebral foramen that is present for the passage of the spinal cord, okay. So, just like how you have the skull to protect the brain, we have the vertebrae to protect the spinal cord, okay. So that's why we have a vertebral foramen. And then you're going to be having transverse processes on these two sides. So these ones are going to be called as the transverse process. Okay, so here you have two processes which is going to be called as the superior articular process because it's going to be located above the vertebra. Okay, so that it can articulate with the vertebrates at the top. Okay, that is for the superior process. And at the bottom, you're going to be having another two, which we can't see in this image, right? That is called the inferior articular processes, which is going to be there for you to articulate with the lower vertebrates. Okay. And um, you can also see that it's going to be having a very prominent spinous process, okay, that is to get attached to the muscles that's going to be at the lower back. Okay, so this is the typical vertebra, and it can be a possible essay question. So yeah, I have written this essay many times, and I think it's better if you guys practice this as well because there is a possibility, okay, to describe the typical vertebra. So better if you guys, draw the diagram and practice, writing an essay on this. Okay. So again, I'll repeat it. A prominent body, okay, so it's large, right? And this is also called the neural arc, okay. So the vertebral foramen, it's all, this entire area is going to be present in the neural arc. So there are two parts actually, that is the body and the neural arc. Okay, so when it comes to the body, you have this part, and then the neural arc or the vertebral arc, where you're going to be having the vertebral foramen and the transverse process, okay, the prominent spinous process, okay, for attachment of muscles in the lower back. And you have two superior articular processes, that is to articulate with the vertebrates, that's going to be vertebra that's located at the top. And then you have another two inferior articular process which you cannot see, that's located at the bottom of this vertebrate. Okay, so I hope you guys got that. Okay, then this one. Okay, this is cervical vertebra. Okay, now I think this was then the structure. Say if you guys have attempted it, okay. So tell me, how can you identify this to be a cervical vertebra? Like I want a few facts about this vertebra. So I'm not going to be reading from the textbook, okay, because that is going to be boring. So I want you guys to, you know, tell it in your own words. You can unmute the mic as well. You can unmute and speak. Yes, bifid process. Yes, they are the smallest. Okay. Also, please don't write they are the smallest. Now, that's a fact. It's correct. If you're trying to describe the cervical vertebra, you can definitely say they are the smallest. But then, like in the structure essay, right? If they're going to be asking you to identify them, please don't write that, okay? Because we can't see if it's small or big, right? So we can compare sizes here. So don't write that. Large vertebral foramen. yes, that is correct, but you can't use that in this place. Large vertebral foramen, you have to use it for axis vertebra, not axis, sorry, atlas vertebra. It's somewhat specific to that. So yes, it is correct. They do cervical vertebrae. They do have the large vertebral foramen, but then it's better not to write that. I think the two things you can write is the vertebral artery, the vertebral foramen that you have for arteries, and the bifid spine, right? So that I think those are the only, like, the two best things that you can write. Apart from that, others also there are, but then avoid writing those, right? So you can, because these vertebral, these foramens in the transverse process that's present for the vertebral arteries are only going to be seen in cervical vertebra. It's specific to them. Okay, so that as well as this bifid spine. Also, a thing I wanted to ask about bifid spine: do all of the cervical vertebra have the bifid spine? This bifid spinous process. Do like all of them have it? No, they don't. Yes. C2 to C6. So C2 to C6 has, but not the others. Okay, very good. So you can remember that. Yes, cervical vertebra, they are the smallest. Okay, and they have transverse foramen, vertebral artery, and you can talk about the bifid spinous process. Okay, so these kind of things you can use it to identify the cervical vertebra. Okay, and also yes, they have large vertebral foramens compared to all the other vertebrae, because because they allow the passage of spine. So the spinal cord, okay, at the starting part, okay, it's quite thick, right? And then it becomes thin as it goes down. So it's quite thick at the top, right? So because of that, these vertebrae are going to be having large foramens compared to the others to allow the passage of the spine. Okay, good. Then we are moving on to the next one. Okay. Atlas vertebra. Yes, for this you can say that it has a large vertebral foramen. Why? Because the thick part of the spinal cord has to pass through it. So then you can say yes, it has a large vertebral foramen. Okay, and this is the facet for articulation with odontoid process. All right. I have a question for you guys. There is something, okay, the structures which are involved in allowing the head to do the nodding movements. What are they? It is the atlas vertebra, yes. So what is it going to be articulating with to allow that particular movement, the nodding movement? Y'all can unmute and answer as well. You don't have to necessarily type it down. Yes. What permits the nodding movement? Are y'all sleeping? Come on. Or is it taking like a long time to type or something? Okay. Yes. Occipital condyles. Yeah, so they are going to be articulating with occipital condyle. That is going to be helping the nodding movement. What about the pivot movement? Pivot. For the head to pivot, what is going to be happening? What are the surfaces? Okay, that is the odontoid process of the axis vertebra is going to be articulating with the atlas vertebra, and that's how it's going to be permitting the pivot movement, right? So here, facets for articulation with the odontoid process. Okay, so you have that. And now, how are you going to be identifying this? Tell me. So how do you identify the atlas vertebra? You can say it doesn't have a prominent body or a spinous process. Okay, so no prominent body, no spinous process. Okay, and you can see that it has a comparatively larger vertebral foraminal. Yeah, true. Okay, it's the only thing that's in over. That is true, but then can you really write this in the structured essays answers? I don't think. Yeah, exactly. You can't do that. Yeah, you can identify it as soon as you see it. It's like oval shaped, and you're like, okay, this is the atlas vertebra. But then you have to write facts, right? So you can say no prominent body, no prominent spinous process, and a comparatively larger vertebral foramen. Okay, that is present. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, you can actually use that idea. So you can just look at it and identify it to be the atlas vertebra, and then you can go on describing it. So you can remember that, the only one that's oval shaped with no prominent spinous process. Okay, so that is the atlas vertebra. Then this is the first cervical vertebra. Okay, so moving on to the second cervical vertebra, that is this. Okay, now you can see this is C2. Okay, so this is C2, and you can see that it has a spinous process. Okay, so it has bifid spinous process, so that's C2. And yes, so this is axis vertebra. How do you identify this? It kind of looks like a chicken or like a fly, I don't know, like an alien sort of thing. So how do you identify this? So what can you write for this? So you can mention about the odontoid process. Okay, that is unique, right? So you can mention about the odontoid process, and I think you can only mention that because all the others, it seems. So you can mention this as well, right? Facets for atlas. You can't see this in the other vertebrates. So for the for the atlas vertebra, we said it's the spinous process and the body and everything. For this, you can mention about the odontoid process as well as the fasces which is present for articulating with atlas. Okay, so this is C2. Okay, and you can see the bifid spine. Okay, so here also we have a transverse foramen for vertebral artery. Okay, and you have a body, and then yeah, so you can look at the vertebral foramen, okay, for the spine, right? So let's move on to the next one. That is the thoracic vertebra. Okay. All right. Now, I think this is quite easy. You know to identify this. Tell me how you would identify this. Just give me maybe 2 points. What is this paragraph? Okay, good. Okay, now anyways, going on to thoracic vertebra, what can you say? What is the main thing that you can say? Yes, so it has facets for articulation with the ribs. Okay, now if you are going to be taking ribs, right? Can't draw. Okay. Oh, what is this? Okay, so look at this rib. Okay. So look at this part. This is the tubercle, okay? And then you have the head of the rib. So the tubercle and the head of the rib are going to be two parts that's going to be articulating with the thoracic vertebra. Okay, the head of the rib is going to be articulating with the body, and tubercle is going to be articulating with the transverse process. Okay, so now this point is important for MCQs because people go wrong, they get confused. Okay, remember, head of the rib articulates with the body, while the tubercle is going to be articulating with the transverse process, right? So now you can see it here. So here we are going to be having one. Okay, this is going to be, oh no, not this one. Okay, here. This is going to be articulating with the tubercle, and this part is going to be articulating with the head of the ribs. Okay, so this section, that is, these two sections are for articulating with the vertebrates at the top, right? So this is where the head is going to be joining, and this is where the tubercle is going to be joining. Okay, so it's very important to remember that. And then if you have to identify this, you can say about the spinous process, right? You can say it has a prominent spinous process, and then facets for articulating with the ribs. I don't think you can say much about the vertebral foramina. Okay, no, don't mention that. These two are very strong points. So you can mention this about the thoracic vertebra. Okay, then finally we have the sacrum. So sacrum, like I mentioned, it's formed by 5 fused rudimentary bones, and coccyx is formed by 4. Okay, and you can see sacrum also has foramens. Okay, but these ones are for a different purpose. Okay, these ones are present for the passage of nerves, not vertebral arteries. Okay, because the only vertebra, okay, that has foramens for the passage of vertebral artery is cervical vertebra, only cervical vertebra, right? The others don't have. Sacrum has, but it's there for the passage of nerves, nothing else. Okay, so you guys got that. And also, sacrum is going to be articulating with the acetabulum in the pelvic bone. Okay, right, you got that. Okay, I'll take that as a yes. Yeah, then this part is done, and you can see how it's articulated. Okay, so this is the head region. Head goes with the body of the thoracic vertebra, and the facet that is in the transverse process is going to be articulating with the tubercle of the rib, right? Okay, then we'll take a break. I'll give you guys like a 10-minute break, so you can come back at 8:52, and then we'll do the structured essay and the MCQs. Okay, so it's better if you all have like tried it or something, so we can discuss that and we can end the session. Okay then. It's a 10-minute break. Also, if you all have any questions or problems, you can like ask me. Okay, I hope you all are back. Right. So we go to the MCQs. We're starting the MCQs. Give me some time to share the screen. Okay. So are you all ready? Can you like maybe put a thumbs up or maybe a yes or something like that? So I know that I can start. Hello. Okay. One person is here. What about the others? Okay. All right. So now the first MCQ. In the human skull, warmer contributes to form the cranium. Is that true or false? Is that correct? Warmer contributes to form what? Yes. Y'all can unmute. So warmer contributes to form the skull, right? So not the cranium. Sorry, not the skull. I'm sorry, what am I saying? The facial bone. Okay, so warmer is going to be contributing to form the facial bone, not the cranium. Okay, so that is wrong. Second MCQ, ethmoid and sphenoid bones are facial bones. That's false. They are not. Okay, ethmoid and sphenoid are not facial bones. They are cranial bones. Okay, they help you to form the cranium, not the face. That's false, right? Third question, zygomatic and parietal bones contribute to form the zygomatic arc. Is that correct or wrong? Can someone answer me? Zygomatic and parietal bones contribute to form the zygomatic arc. Is that correct? Yeah, it's wrong. Okay, what is it? It's zygomatic and what are the bone? Zygomatic and temporal bone, right? So zygomatic and temporal bone are going to be contributing to form the zygomatic arc, not parietal. So that is wrong. So that is supposed to be temporal, right? So that's false. Then the fourth one, mastoid process of mandible articulates with temporal bone. Now this statement is wrong in like two different places, right? Because mandible does have processes, but it's not called mastoid. Okay, mandible has two processes. So what is that? Coronoid and condyloid, right? So remember we drew that like a rough sketch. Okay, so you have the coronoid process and the condyloid process. Okay, so yes, it does articulate with this part is correct. Okay, this part is correct, but this part is wrong. It's not mastoid. Okay, so it is a condyloid process. So condyloid process of the mandible is going to be articulating with the temporal bone. So that is wrong, which means fifth one should be correct. Okay, so maxillary and frontal bones are going to be containing sinuses. So what are the other two bones with sinuses? You have maxillary bones, frontal bones, ethmoid, and sphenoid. Four bones, right? Maxillary, frontal, ethmoid, sphenoid. All of these four bones are going to be contributing to are going to be contributing to form. They have sinuses, right? So therefore, fifth one is the correct answer. Who got this right? You guys can like maybe I don't know react in some sort of way. Okay, one person. What about the others? Okay. Okay, that's good. Now let me show you the review. Okay. Can you all see the other? No, you all can see the screen. Okay, now this is a review. So I hope you all can see that. So this is how you write a review. Okay. Not paragraphs, just simple sentences. I'll be sharing this in the group. Okay, so it has the answers for the structured essay as well. So you can see. Warmer contributes to form facial bone. Okay, so this is how you write a review. Okay, so the first statement that we came across was warmer contributes to form the cranium. Okay, so see how I have written it. So I have written warmer contributes to form the facial bone, and I have written all 15 facial bones as well. Okay, so 15 bones form the facial bones, and I've written all 15. So that's how you should do it. Okay, so if it's about the cranium, look at this. Ethmoid and sphenoid bones form the cranium, and then I have written 8 bones form cranium, and all 8 are there. Okay, and then again here, look at this. Zygomatic bone and temporal bone form the zygomatic arc. Chondroid process articulates with the temporal bone to form the temporal mandibular joint. So if you want to further expand it, you can also write about, that mastoid, styloid, and zygomatic process belongs to um, the temporal bone. Okay, the processes of the temporal bone. So you can mention that as well. Okay, and here, finally, maxillary, frontal bone, ethmoid, and sphenoid are going to be containing sinuses. Okay, right. So that's the review for this one. Then let's move on to the next one. Okay. Second question. In the human vertebral column, right, uh, 24 bones are linearly arranged. Yes or no? Yes, 26. Very good. So that's wrong. Okay. Then again, cervical curvature develops at about 7 to 8 months after birth. So which curvature develops at 7 to 8 months after birth? Is it cervical or is it going to be lumbar curvature? It's lumbar, right? Because cervical curvature is going to be there at 3 months. So it's lumbar curvature. That is, again, it's wrong. Then here, thoracic region is formed by 12 vertebra. Is that correct? Yes. So we have 7 cervical vertebra, 12 thoracic, and when it comes to lumbar, we have 5. So in that case, this is a correct statement. So C is correct. D. Cervical vertebra contains foramen for vertebral arteries. Is that correct? Yes, it is. Why? Because that's mainly how you identify a cervical vertebra, right? So one of the main points you can use to identify a cervical vertebra is that it has foramens for vertebral arteries. That's a correct statement. Then finally, lumbar vertebra contains bifid spinous process. No. Cervical vertebra contains bifid spinous process. So that is answer number 4. C and D, answer number 4. Okay, who got that right? This is 5, this is 4. Okay, good. Then the third one, after birth. Okay, anteriorly convex curvatures of the vertebral humans are developed in the, okay, anteriorly convex. Come on, it says convex curvatures. What is this? Is it primary or secondary? Primary curvatures or secondary curvatures? Which is convex anteriorly? Yes, secondary. So what are the two secondary curvatures we have? Cervical and lumbar. That is answer number 3. So you see, it's such a simple, easy question. So if you remember the point, you don't even have to think, right? You just know convex curvatures. And then anteriorly, this word is also important, okay? Because if they give posteriorly, then it's going to be the other way around. So remember that, right? So anteriorly, what is it? Cervical and lumbar. Okay. Then the fourth one. Okay. Select the correct statement regarding human skeleton. Articulation of axis vertebra with the occipital bone permits nodding movements of the head. Is that correct? Yes, it is. That's the right answer. Then let's look at the second one. All carpal bones in the upper limb contribute to form the wrist joint. No. Is it all carpal bones or specific carpal bones? May I know what that specific is? Yes. Three proximal carpal bones, okay, because we have proximal and distal also. So the proximal ones are forming the wrist joint, and the distal ones are going to be contributing to form joints with the metacarpal bones, right? So then all carpal bones wrong, only the three proximal carpal bones, right? Next one. Osteoarthritis is a condition associated with reduction in bone density. No, that's false. Osteoarthritis is going to be, it's a non-inflammatory degenerative disorder, right? Reduction in bone density is osteoporosis. So it's false. Then the fourth statement, patella articulates with the lower end of femur. Hmm, okay, it does. Let's check this again. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, we made a mistake here. Look, this is wrong. That is, the first statement is wrong. Look, it's not axis vertebra, right? It's supposed to be atlas. Atlas vertebra. So atlas vertebra is going to be with the occipital bone and it's going to be forming the nodding movements, not axis. Okay, so see, we can make mistakes. Okay, anyways. So yeah, the fourth one is correct. Patella articulates with the lower end of the femur, right? That's right. Then finally, fifth one, maxilla is the only movable bone in the skull. Is it maxilla or mandible? Yes, it's mandible. So that is wrong again. So here it's answer number four. Who got that right? May I know who got it? Okay. So now this is about the crossbreed cycle. So before we do this, I want you guys to watch a video. Okay. So it's like, hold on, give me a minute. It's a video about sliding filament theory. So let's watch that. Can you all see this? Let me know if you all can hear. Okay. Can you all hear it? Can you all hear the sound? Can you guys hear it? Hello? Yeah? Okay. Ready for more to explore? Check out our video description. Okay.
action. Enter the sliding filament model of muscle contraction. Now, as we often tell you, we're going to do a simplified version. When you're ready for more to explore, check out our video description. Okay, so we have actin, thin filaments. We have myosin, thick filaments. We have these Z lines here where a sarcomere ends, and these Z lines are where the thin filaments attach. The thick filaments are held by accessory proteins in this area called the M line. The big, super important concept here is this. The sarcomere must shorten for muscles to contract, but the thick and thin filaments themselves do not shorten. So the way that is going to happen is that we're going to slide past each other, and they do. When the sarcomere contracts, the thin filaments will be pulled by the thick filaments towards the center. There is overlap of the thin and thick filaments. Z lines will be moved closer together. How are they doing that? So let's zoom into this here. Showing a thin filament on top, that's actin, thick filament on bottom, that's myosin. Myosin has structures here called myosin heads. Hundreds of them actually, but we're just going to focus on one. And here we show the myosin head is bound to ATP. It hydrolyzes the ATP. Remember, hydrolyzing results in ADP and a phosphate, which are both still bound to the myosin head. The myosin head can now bind to the actin. We call this a cross bridge. The myosin head performs a power stroke, which will also involve the release of ADP and the phosphate. Power stroke meaning the thin filament slides towards that sarcomere center. A new ATP molecule binds the myosin head, and that is what lets the myosin head detach. Without ATP, the myosin head would not detach. And this is actually the reason for rigor mortis, how muscles can be rigid after an organism dies, is the organism is no longer producing ATP. ATP is needed for the myosin to separate from the actin. So during muscle contraction, you can imagine all these hundreds of cross bridges forming and breaking and power strokes happening in each sarcomere throughout the time of a muscle contraction. It's popular in bio to compare the myosin heads to tiny little oars of a boat, and because there would be some attached at any given time during a contraction, it prevents the actin from slipping back to its original position. But there's more. A muscle isn't always contracting. There is regulation in that it's not just cycle after cycle. A lot of this regulation involves the ability of the myosin heads to bind to the actin in the first place. The actin has something called tropomyosin on it. It's a regulatory protein, and it blocks the myosin binding sites on the actin. We're drawing it like a ribbon here, blocking sites. Another thing called troponin, or really a troponin complex, is a set of more regulatory proteins. Together, these regulatory proteins block those myosin binding sites, and if the myosin doesn't bind the actin, the muscle can't contract because that thin filament isn't going to be sliding. But when a neuron stimulates a muscle, it can trigger a release of calcium, and those little calcium ions bind to the troponin. The troponin has a conformational change, and this lets the tropomyosin move off the myosin binding sites. Now the myosin heads can bind. Pretty fascinating way to regulate. Next time you pick up that biology textbook, you might want to pause to reflect on the amazing events occurring in your skeletal muscles. Well,
Okay, so that is about sliding filament theory. Okay, so now we'll move on to this, the MCQ. So y'all now know. Okay, now y'all know what happens. Okay, so initially we are going to be having a myosin head. Okay, that's going to be in the resting position. Okay, so now I'm not going to go about the introduction. Okay, so you all know there's thick filaments, thin filaments. Myosin is a thick filament. Okay, and it's going to be having two regions called the head and the tail. So the tail is going to be bundled together while the head is going to be sticking out, and the head is going to be having a site to bind to the actin, right? So the actin are the thin filaments, and they're also going to be a myosin head binding site. They're going to be having a myosin head binding site. Now, can you tell me what's the motor protein, or the motor protein that is actually regulating this whole process? This process of muscle contraction, skeletal muscle contraction. May I know the motor protein that is regulating it? Yes, very good. It's myosin. Okay, so myosin is the one that's going to be regulating it, right? So what happens is initially the myosin is going to be in a lower energy state. Okay, so myosin is going to be in a lower energy state. Then what happens to this myosin head? An ATP molecule is going to be binding. Okay, and it breaks. ATP molecule binds and it breaks into ADP and phosphate. So it's inorganic phosphate, right? Now what happens when ATP molecule breaks and turns into ADP and phosphate? It's going to be releasing energy, right? So 30 kilojoule per mole. So it's going to be releasing that energy. And what happens? Myosin goes to a higher energy state. Okay. Now when myosin comes to a higher energy state, it's going to be binding with the actin. Okay, it's going to bind with the actin, releasing the ADP and phosphate molecules. Now it's in a higher energy state. So let's say this is the actin molecules, actin filaments. Okay, so it's going to be binding with actin, releasing ADP and phosphate. Okay, and now what happened? Now you have a cross bridge cycle. Sorry, now you have a cross bridge. Okay, so it forms a bridge. Now what happens is once it releases ADP and phosphate, it comes back to its lower energy state. Now when the myosin is going to coming, it's going to come back to its lower energy state. So it goes like this to this, right? Like, it becomes again, it goes down again, right? So what happens is when that happens, it pulls, right? It pulls the actin filaments towards the center. That way the muscle is going to be contracting. So then what happens is now it's in its low energy state. So a new ATP molecule comes and joins again. So once an ATP molecule comes and joins again, what happens is that the cross bridge with actin molecules is going to be broken. Okay, so this is basically what happens. This is the basic idea of sliding filament theory. So we have an myosin head, okay, low energy state, ATP joins, goes to a high energy state, ATP breaks into ADP and phosphate, okay, and it's going to be going to a high energy state and it's going to be connecting with the actin molecules. And then what happens? ADP and phosphate is released, and then the myosin head will go back into its low energy state while pulling the actin filaments towards the center. Okay, and then what happens? Another ATP molecule joins, and then the cross bridge is broken. So cross bridge is broken only after another ATP molecule is going to be joined. Okay, now you tell me how many ATP molecules are going to be used in one cross bridge cycle? How many ATP molecules are used in one cross bridge cycle? No? Think properly. A cross bridge cycle begins from the time an ATP is joined and the cycle is broken, right? So how many? It's actually one, not two. One is the answer. Okay, so I know people get confused there. Remember that it's one. Okay, it's one. So now, uh, you know what happens in sliding filament theory. Okay, now depending on that, can you all give me an answer? What do you think is the answer? Answer number three. Okay, let's check. So myosin head binds to actin forming cross bridge. Myosin head enters into high energy state. Okay, so this is what happens first, right? First of all, myosin head is going to be entering into a higher energy state. So B comes first. Okay, and second one is sliding of thin filaments releasing ADP. No. Yeah, so myosin head is going to be binding to actin, forming a cross bridge. Okay, then sliding of thin filaments releasing ADP and phosphate from myosin. So C, and finally you have D, binding of a new ATP molecule to myosin head, detaching actin. So B, A, C, D. That's answer number three. Yes, it's correct. Yes, the third answer. Very good. Okay. Now let's move on to 6, 7, and 8. Right. Okay. In the human skeleton, frontal bone contributes to form the cranium and face. Is that correct? Yes, it is correct. Okay. Then 12 pairs of ribs form the lateral walls of the thoracic cage. Yes. 12 pairs of ribs form the lateral walls of thoracic cage. Lumbar curvature of the vertebral column develops after 3 months of birth. No, that's wrong. 7 to 8 months. Okay, so it's the cervical curvature develops after 3 months. So wrong. Then special joint between the first metacarpal and the carpal bone permits precision grip of man. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. Tell me if it's correct or wrong. Statement D. Is it correct or wrong? Is it correct or wrong? Yes means you mean it's correct. No, it's not correct. No, it's not. Okay, no, it's correct. Yes, 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 it is correct. So special joint between the first metacarpal and the carpal bone permits precision grip of man. Yes, it is correct. I think I confused you guys. Yeah, it is correct. The other one is, what is the other type of grip that we spoke about? There was another type. Power grip. Yes. So power grip is between the metacarpal bones and the phalanges. Yes, this is correct. I'm so sorry about the confusion earlier. Okay, then arches of the foot are important in distributing the weight evenly over the foot only when stationary. Okay, that is wrong because it should be stationary as well as moving. Okay, so yeah, so this is, I think, combination one, right? Is it one or two? One, right? Yeah, one. Okay, so one is the answer. I hope you all got that. Okay, then the seventh one. Which of the following statements regarding axial skeleton of man is correct? Okay, so axial skeleton means it's the skull, um, the ribs, sternum, as well as the spinal cord, the vertebra. Sorry, not the spinal cord, the spine, right? Okay, 3 pairs of ribs articulate with the sternum indirectly. Is that correct? 3 pairs of ribs articulate. Yes, it is correct. Then zygomatic arc provides surface for muscle attachment for the movement of the upper jaw. No, that is wrong. You can't move the upper jaw, right? It's the lower jaw. So yeah, that's wrong. Then third one. Sacrum is formed from 7 fused rudimentary vertebra. What's the number? Just give me the number. How many? It's 5. Yes, that's wrong. Okay, it's supposed to be 5 fused rudimentary vertebra. Then the fourth one, sinuses are located in the nasal and temporal bones. No, that is wrong. Sinuses are located in maxillary bones, frontal bone, ethmoid, sphenoid. Okay, and yes, they are connected to the nasal cavity. Yes, sinuses are connected to the nasal cavity, but no, these bones are wrong, right? Then the fifth one, until the development of lumbar curvature, child cannot hold the head upright. Can someone please correct that statement for me? It's wrong. Okay. So you can correct one thing. So until the development of cervical curvature, the child cannot hold the head upright, right? So until the development of lumbar curvature, the child cannot hold his body upright. Okay, so that's answer number 1. Who got that? Y'all can like maybe raise a hand or something. Okay. Next, excluding patella, the number of bones in the lower limb of a human is how many? The answer should be like very quick at this. Excluding patella, the number of bones in the lower limb of the human is 29. Minus 4. 4 minus. What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Ah, okay, sorry. So you mean like the fourth answer. Okay. Yeah, fourth one. 29. Okay. So we can take a look at this. Okay, so here you can see both in the lower limb as well as the upper limb, we are going to be having 30 bones in total. Okay, so upper limb, 1 humerus, 1 radius, 1 ulna, 8 carpal bones, 5 metacarpal bones, 14 phalanges, and the lower limb, you have 1 femur, tibia, fibula, patella, 7 tarsal bones. Okay, 7 tarsal bones, 5 metatarsal bones, and 14 phalanges. So yeah, so you can see the difference. Yeah, it's answer number 4. Okay, now before we do the 9th question, I want you all to take a look at this. Okay, so this is a simplified, I have put this into diagrams. So we have 3 main types of skeletons, right? So we have the hydrostatic skeleton, the exoskeleton, and then we have the endoskeleton. Okay, so look at the hydrostatic skeleton. So cnidarians are going to be using their gastrovascular cavity as the hydrostatic skeleton, while nematodes and annelids are going to be having a fluid-filled cavity that is surrounded by a body wall. Okay, now these two are different. Okay, now if they ask you how nematodes and annelids are going to be, how their skeleton is going to be functioning, then you have to mention there is a fluid-filled cavity that is surrounded by a body wall. Okay, and they have longitudinal muscles, so they're going to be moving by, these muscle contractions as well as uh, using fluid pressure. Okay, so that's how they are moving. Now, this is complete. Now, nematodes and annelids, the way they function is completely different to how cnidarians function. They function using the gastrovascular cavity. That is completely different, right? So these two are different things. Anyways, the common thing they have is the skeleton type. Okay, so all 3 of them are going to be having hydrostatic skeleton, right? Then we go to exoskeleton. So under that, we have 3 phylums. Okay. So we have arthropods, mollusks, and reptiles. So arthropods are going to be using a chitinous exoskeleton. Mollusks are going to be having calcium carbonate exoskeleton, and reptiles have bony plates. Okay, so you can just keep this in your mind. That way, MCQs are going to be easy, right? And then when it comes to endoskeleton, we have echinodermates and chordates. So calcium carbonate plates are present for echinodermates, and chordates have bones and cartilage. So keep this in your mind. Okay. So with this in our minds, okay, we are going to be doing the other question. Okay, so we're moving on to this one. Right. So now take a look at this. Some features present in 2 animals labeled as A and B are as follows. Okay. Endoskeleton. Right. First point. Endoskeleton. What are the 3 phylums that's going to be having endoskeleton? So we have chordates and echinodermates, right? So option A, because it's endoskeleton. Okay, it should be only from chordates or echinodermates. You can cancel out all the other options. So just look at this. Okay, number 1 is chordate. Number 2 is chordata. Number 3 is annelida. We can't choose that. Okay, so you can cut it off. Okay, you don't even have to think for this. Just know these facts, right? And look at the fourth one. Echinodermates. Yes, we can have that as an option. Fifth one is nematoda. No, we can't have that as an option. So we just have to cut that off, okay? Look at the B part. Exoskeleton. Open circulatory system, gills. Okay, now tell me. what are the three animal phyla belonging to exoskeleton? There are three. Can you guys tell me? I'm waiting. What are the three? Come on. Yes, mollusk. Yes. Okay. So let's take a look at the second option now. It says nematoda. No, we can't have that as an answer. Then it says echinodermata. No. So your answer should be answer number 4. So you see how easy that was, right? So may I know who got this right? Right? Okay, that's good. So look at it, right? Now you don't even have to memorize this closed circulatory system, open circulatory system, whether they have seen all of this at all. All you short notes and write your reviews properly and study. Okay, so yeah, good. You can see a lot of you have got it correct. So the 10th one. All right. So I feel like the questions from this particular chapter, they're like very interesting because it's like identifications and stuff. Okay, so some features of three vertebrae of man labeled as PQN are observed by student are given below. A large body and a prominent spinous process. Okay, tell me which one is that? Which one can it be? It has a prominent spinous process and a large body. So it can't be thoracic. So let's cancel this out. Okay. So option 2 and 5 are not there. Right. Then second one. No distinct body or spinous process. So which one do you think it is? No distinct body or spinous process? Come on. You should know this. Yes. Yes, atlas. So that is the first cervical vertebra, right? So option 3 is not there because that's a second cervical vertebra. So we have 1 and 4. Okay, now finally, articulation facets on the body and transverse process. Articulation facets on the body and the transverse process. Okay, so it has both in the body and transverse process. That is thoracic vertebra. Answer number 4. Who got that? Who got that right? Okay, then move. So this is like, I think this is like the easiest. I don't even know why this particular question is there in the paper. Okay, because it's like, it's that easy. Okay, look at the 11th question. Following processes are present in the temporal bone of man. Okay, so there are only they have only mentioned about, I think there are 6 processes. Okay, that is, they have mentioned about coronoid process and condyloid process. Okay, so coronoid and condyloid are belonging to the mandible. Okay, and then we have another 3 process that is belonging to the temporal bone, that is styloid, mastoid, and zygomatic process. And then we have another process called xiphoid process belonging to the sternum. So 6. So take a look at this. You know very well that coronoid and condyloid belongs to the mandible. So we can cancel that. Again, this has condyloid. That's not the answer. Condyloid. That's not the answer. Here there is coronoid. That's not the answer. So it's answer number 2. I think all of you would have got that right. Okay, then moving on. Select the correct statement regarding the human vertebral column. Okay, oh look, it's there again. It consists of 24 linearly arranged bones. No, it has 26, right? Because sacrum and coccyx is also a part of the vertebral column, so we can't take that as an answer. Each cervical vertebra contains a bifid spinous process. Is that true? No, it's not. So can I know that range? Can someone tell me the range? Yes. No, 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 no. Is it C2 to, it's C2 to C6. 2 to 6, okay? Not 7, 6. Okay, so 2 to 6. That's again wrong. Then its thoracic curvature is convex towards the anterior. Thoracic curvature is a primary curve. It's a primary curvature, right? All primary curvatures are going to be concave towards the anterior. So that is wrong. Fourth one, each transverse process of a lumbar vertebra contains a foramen for passage of the vertebral artery. Is that correct? I mean, transverse process of lumbar vertebra contains a foramen for passage of vertebral artery. This is true. Okay, there is a particular vertebra, but it's not lumbar. It's cervical vertebra. Okay, so you use that point to identify it as well. So no, that's wrong. Then answer should be 5, right? Sacrum contains a series of foramina on each side for passage of nerves. Please pay attention to that. Okay, sometimes they can tell you passage of arteries, and please don't go mark that. Okay, you're gonna come back home and regret. You're gonna cry. Okay, so please don't do that. It's passage of nerves. Okay, remember, nerves, not arteries, nerves. So who got that right? Answer number 5. Okay, good. Okay. Then we've come to the final MCQ. In the human appendicular skeleton, right? This is about appendicular skeleton, which involves the limb joints, that is your hands and legs, and then the hip joint as well as your shoulder joint. Okay. Head of humerus forms a ball and socket joint with the clavicle, permitting a wide range of movements. Is that correct? Is that correct? Head of humerus forms a ball and socket joint with clavicle, permitting a wide range of movements. No, not clavicle. It's the scapula. Okay, so I think I showed that, or maybe I didn't. It's the scapula. Okay, so the scapula is going to be having an area for the humerus to join, right? So not the clavicle. It's the scapula. So that is a false statement. So remember that. It's okay if you got that wrong. It's fine. Remember, it's scapula, not clavicle. Okay. Then radius and ulna articulate with singular articular surfaces at the distal end of humerus, forming the elbow joint. Is that correct? Yes, it is false. Okay, because it's going to be having two articular surfaces. I think we came across this statement as well. Okay, so the distal end of humerus is going to be having two articular surfaces. One is for the radius, other one is for the ulna. That is false. The joint formed at the base of thumb between the first metacarpal bone and the carpal bone permits power grip. Okay, so this is the MCQ I was talking about actually. Previously, I think I made a mistake. So this is the point I was talking about. Is that correct or wrong? Come on. I want like quick answers because we've done this. Yes, it's false. Because it's supposed to be precision grip, right? Uh, because power grip is going to be the one between the metacarpal bones and the phalanges. So this is first metacarpal bone, and a specific carpal bone is going to be the precision grip, not power grip. So that's wrong. Then second one, hip joint is sturdy and powerful to bear body weight while standing. Okay, so that is correct, but then it says standing. So let's say you're not like sure okay about this. So let's take the fifth one as well, right? Knee joint formed by the femur and tibia allows rotatory movement. Is that correct? Is statement 5 correct? Now this is correct. Okay, hip joint is sturdy and powerful to bear body weight while standing. Yes, that's the correct answer. But then I want to know why you can't say fifth one is not correct. Why is it wrong? It is formed by tibia and femur. Like, what's the problem there? Yes. What's the problem? It says rotatory movement, right? You can't do a rotatory movement there, can you? Yes. I'm sorry about that. Like my water bottle fell down. Yeah, it can only do two movements. That's extension and flexion. Yeah, so it can only do two movements. That is rotation. Sorry, I'm sorry. That is extension and flexion, not rotation. Okay, you can't do that because it's a hinge joint. So answer number 4. May I know who got like? May I know your answers? How much you got out of 13? Okay, that's good. 12, 13, 12. Okay, oh, 11. Okay, that's fine. That's good. So now you guys know. Now look at this question, right? Question number 13. You can see how within a single question, okay, within a single MCQ, they have tested both the upper limbs and the lower limbs. So you can see it's like a big combination. Okay, so you have to know both the areas very thorough. So this is the thing about biology. Okay, sometimes it can be very like like some can be very easy, some can be very difficult. So I think the reason behind this is that the bio paper is made for everyone to pass. Okay, so the papers when the examiners, okay, not only with biology, it's the same thing with physics, chemistry, right? They make the paper in a way for all the students to pass. So you can easily get a pass mark, but then being the best, okay, getting the best mark and getting into a university is the challenge. So if you want to go there to that level, then you have to work hard. You should know like the resource book like the back of your hand. So that's the challenge here. So take a look at these questions. These kind of question, like this particular question, okay, only a very smart child can do that. If the child has, studied both the upper limbs and lower limbs correctly, only they can get such a question correct. Because look, knee joint formed by femur and tibia, some might mark it correct because they're not sure if it can do a rotatory movement or not. But the ones who specifically know that no, knee joint means only flexion and extension, only those ones can think it through and get it right. So that's the thing. Okay, now we have done all the MCQs. Do you guys want to discuss the structure as well, or how do you all want to do it? Should we do the structure as well? But then if you're doing the structure, then I want you all to speak up, or else it's going to be so boring. Shall we do the structure essay as well? Like, give me a yes or a no. Yeah, you can use the chat box. Okay, one said yes. What about the others? Come on, make it fast. Do you all want to do it or no? Yes. Okay then. Okay, so we'll do it. Right. Name a phylum which includes animals with an okay, and also remember when you're doing the structured essay, when you come across certain keywords, you can underline it, okay? Not with a pen, with a pencil, okay? Underline it, and then so that you can properly get the idea into your brain. So see, they're asking for a phylum. There's animals with an endoskeleton, right? Made up of calcium carbonate plates. So we know two animals, okay, so not animals, two phyla that's going to be having endoskeletons, right? So endoskeleton means one is chordata and the other one is going to be echinodermata. So tell me what is going to be the answer here? Because we are chordates, okay, and as humans we are going to be having bones and cartilages, right? So what is going to be having calcium carbonate plates then?
Echinodermata?
Yeah, that's right. So that's the answer. Okay, echinodermata. Then this one, why doesn't the first pair of ribs move during inspiration? Why doesn't why can't they move? Why can't the first pair of ribs move? Because why? Okay, so the first pair of ribs cannot move because they are going to be strongly attached to what? They are going to be articulated to the sternum as well as the first thoracic vertebra. Okay, so the first pair of rib is going to be attached to the sternum and the first thoracic vertebra, which is why they can't move during inspiration. Okay, right. Then third one, B part, state three structural features of the human vertebral column that helps to maintain an upright posture. So I think in the book they've given like 5 points, I guess. So y'all can roughly tell me the answer. You'll have to write it properly though, but just like, roughly tell me 3 points how it's going to be helping to maintain the upright posture. You can unmute as well. Yes. Yeah, you can say.
Yeah, so the first pair of the ribs are firmly fixed to the mandible of the sternum and acts as a
Yeah.
stable anchor point of the lower ribs when or during respiration.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. That's a good answer. So yeah, you can write that. So you have mentioned the two important points, okay? Now the thing with structured essay is, we used to be afraid that we should copy paste the answers here as well, but it's not like that, okay? I mean, I know certain words, like if the particular word is there, they would give you the mark. Now, for example, the main two things you have to mention here is it's firmly attached to the sternum as well as the first pair of ribs of thoracic vertebra. If those two words are there, they are going to be giving you the answer. So it's better, like how you said it right now, it's better if you write it in a detailed way, okay? So you're going to get the marks, because just make sure that you get the marks, right? Like, why lose the marks? So don't be lazy, just write the whole thing. Yeah, as for the B part, curvatures, yeah, you can mention about the primary curvatures, secondary curvatures, yeah, and you can mention how the size is going to be increasing of the vertebra when we are going to be moving downwards. And what else? What else can you say? I think there's one more thing. You can mention about the sacrum. Okay, so you can mention how the sacrum is going to be like five fused bones are going to be forming the sacrum, and it's going to be maintained, like holding onto the weight of the spine and the organs as well. So those are 3 points you can write. Let me check the marking scheme. Okay, the marking scheme says development of two secondary curvatures, or you can write presence of two primary and two secondary curvatures. Then yes, then you can write that the sacral vertebra is fused to form the sacrum, and also you can mention about the vertebra becoming larger when you move towards the end of the vertebral column. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. State the function of the arcs of the foot of the lower limb of man. Okay, this is easy. You all know this. Why do we need the arcs for? Yes, people. Why do we need the arcs of the foot of lower limb? Yes, to evenly distribute the weight. You have only given me half of the answer. Yes, you have to mention when standing or moving. That is very important. If you just say distribution of the weight, okay, they are not going to give you 0.5 marks. Okay, it's 1 or nothing. So you can't, you can't beg the examiner, right? So keep that in mind. So distribution of weight evenly over the foot of standing. Okay, you don't have to mention dynamic actions. Okay, you can just say standing and moving. Right? So please change that to standing and moving. Okay, you don't have to write dynamic actions. So make it moving. Okay, good. Right, distribute the weight of the body when standing or moving. Okay, next one. State two locations where ball and socket joints are found in the human body. This is very easy. Where do you see ball and socket joints in the human body? Those are like literally the two ball and socket joints that we studied as well. Yeah, shoulder joints and hip joints. So you can either take the difficult part and write that head of the femur is going to be articulating with the acetabulum of the pelvic bone, or you can simply say hip joint. So shoulder joint also same thing. Okay, you can go on saying head of humerus, scapula and all of that, or you can just simply say shoulder joint. So I feel like writing hip joint and shoulder joint is better because you have to be quick. Okay. The next one, name a phylum that contains animals with hydrostatic skeleton. Okay, this is easy. You all know. Okay, you can write Annelida, Nematoda, or Nidaria. Yeah. Then state one function of each of the following in the human skull. So sutures, actually, when I check the marking scheme, they have not given an answer to that. They've given it as no marks, which means no answer there. Just tell me about fontanelles. Why do we need fontanelles, especially in babies? What's the function?
Um, Fontanelles, they allow the flexibility and compression for the skull during parturition.
What?
Actually, fontanelles, they allow flexibility and the compression of the
Yeah,
skull for the
that's the
child during
answer.
parturition.
So you can just say, or you can just simply say both, then yes, you'll get the point. So if facilitates parturition, or you can write allows compression. Now, when you write the whole thing, okay, they have no option rather than giving you the mark. So they like have to give you the mark. Okay, so it is better if you write it like that. Okay, then the next one. Which human vertebra contains a foramen in each transverse process? Okay, now this is easy. You all know this. Yeah, cervical. Then give two examples for hinge joints found in the human lower limb. You have to give two examples. But I want you all to mention everything. In the lower limb, okay, so here again pay attention. It says human lower limb. So you can't write elbow joint and stuff. Like wrist, elbow joint, no, you can't write those. Two examples for hinge joints found in the human lower limb. Yeah, knee, ankle, and you can write the joints present between the phalanges and toes, like those stuff. Okay. Then moving on. Okay, so you can see 2021. Okay, this is the importance of doing past papers, right? 2021, they have asked about, cervical vertebra, and then 2022, they've asked you to identify a cervical vertebra. So you can see how they are changing the questions, right? This is why you have to do past papers. So now in your year, that is 2026, right? You might get similar questions to 2025. They would change it a little bit and they would give you the question. So yeah, better to do past papers. That's why. Okay, look at this. What is the reason for slipped disc condition in man? Why do you get that? So now please don't tell me bending the knees, okay? Lifting weights without bending the knees, please don't tell me that. That can be a reason, but come on, you can't write that for biology. It should be something else. What is it? Okay, so the answer is protrusion of the inner vertebral disc through the outer ring. So when the inner region is going to be protruding outside, you're going to be getting this condition. Okay, so the answer is supposed to be protrusion of the inner vertebral disc through the outer ring. Okay, right. Now identify the structure given in the above diagram. Okay, so you all know that is cervical vertebra. State two features used for its correct identification. Yes, tell me. Come on, make it fast. Yes, transverse process has a vertebral foramen. What else? Yes, bifid. Yeah, the bifid spinous process. Okay, then um, name the parts labeled as P and Q. What is okay? So Q is the transverse process, and P is going to be the facet for articulation with adjacent vertebra. Okay. All right. Then let's move on to 2023. Name a phylum that contains animals with exoskeletons formed mainly by calcium carbonate space. Sorry, calcium carbonate. Mollusca. Mm, yes. Yeah, mollusca. So what are the three animals with exoskeletons? You have arthropods, reptiles, mollusca. Mollusca is calcium carbonate, arthropods have chitin, and then reptiles have bony plates, right? What structures in the human cranium facilitates parturition? Okay, you saw that, right? Look at this. Initially, I think 2021, they asked about the function of fontanelles, and look, now they are literally asking what part is going to be facilitating parturition. So what is that? It's fontanelles, right? Okay, then moving on. State the main function of the vertebral foramens in man. So I wanted to discuss this one actually because I think there are two possible answers to this. Okay, now the marking scheme says passage of spinal cord, but there's also another function. If you all go to, I think you can check it under the functions of the vertebral column. So if you see common functions of the human vertebral column, there you have this point that says vertebral foramens provide spaces for spinal nerves and blood vessels and lymph vessels. Yeah, so yes. So one thing that I think the answer they've given here is passage of spinal cord. Okay, but then I came across another answer as well. Vertebral foramen provides spaces for spinal nerves, blood vessels, and lymph vessels. So I feel like you can write that as well. But since they're asking the main function, okay, so look at the keyword, right? That is main here. The main function is passing spinal cord. Okay, the spinal cord. That's the main function. So yeah, in that case, spinal cord can be written. Right. What is the structural arrangement which allows pronation and supination of the upper limb of man? Oh, okay. I think we discussed this uh, during the yeah, this Okay, did everyone leave? Something happened to my internet. Are y'all here? Okay, I can see there are like, okay. Something happened to my internet. Okay, so we're continuing, right? Okay. Where were we? Right. Okay, the structural arrangement which allows pronation and supination of the upper limb of man. That is the wrist joint. Okay, so you'll have to explain that. Okay, so what would you, so please don't write wrist joint. You have to mention the presence of a wrist joint. Okay, that is going to be between the distal end of the radius and the three proximal carpal bones. So there are two parts. Okay, one you have to mention is the wrist joint. The other one you have to mention that it's between the distal end of the radius and the three proximal carpal bones. Okay, the exact words should be there. Right, then look at this one. Name the human disorder associated with the reduction of bone density. Again, we come across this, right? I think we came across this with MCQs also. Now it's in the structured essay related to reduction of bone density. What is that? Yeah, may I know what that is? Yeah, it's osteoporosis. Yes. Then what is the number of ATP utilized by a myosin head in one cross-bridge cycle of skeletal muscle contraction? What is that? How many ATP molecules? Yeah, one. That's right. Okay, then 2024. All right, here. Name a group of animals that move by taking water into the body and squirting it out in bursts. What is the animal? So here the points are supposed to be squirting it out in bursts. What is the particular animal they have mentioned? Yes. What is, okay, what is the, okay, now, cephalopods? You're doing local biology, right? Where did you read the Campbell biology or something? Because you have mentioned like even the previous answer had certain words that I didn't understand, like completely different, wasn't from the resource book. Yeah, squids, yes. Please don't write cephalopods, okay? Write squids. Whatever is given in the resource book, write that, okay? You collected squids, you collected like, okay, information. Okay, but I mean, you can use it for your research. Okay, that doesn't mean you apply it on the paper, right? So you just have to stick to what the resource book says. Okay, please stick to the resource book, right? What is the role of calcium ions in shortening of sarcomeres and skeletal muscles? Okay, you guys should know this. We watched it in the video, so you have to answer this. Like, there's only one person. Okay, what about the other two? Y'all can unmute and answer. What is the role of calcium ions in shortening sarcomeres? Yes, come on. Okay, so now basically the calcium ions are going to be, it's going to be freeing the myosin binding sites that's present on the actin molecule. So I think the word you can use that is for, you can use the term exposing. Okay, yes, so it's going to be exposing the myosin binding sites on the actin molecule. So that's the function of calcium ions. Okay, then state the functions of sinuses in the human skull. Okay, sinuses in the human skull, there are two functions. One is it's going to be reducing the weight of the skull. Second point is provides resonance to voice. So reduces weight of the skull, provides resonance to voice. Okay, so that's 2 points there. Then moving on, what is the structural arrangement in the upper limb of human which permits power grip? Oh, okay. This is about power grip. Come on, tell me. Power grip, just tell me the bones which are involved. You can like type it or maybe unmute. Yes, metacarpal bones and phalanges. That's right. Okay, then name the joint that bears the body weight of the human when standing. Okay, now people, okay, don't tell me it's arcs. Yes, very good. Hip joint. Now, you know the arcs on the foot, okay, the feet, they are also going to be helping you bear the body weight when standing. That is true. But look at the keyword here. It says joint. So then you know it's going to be hip joint. Okay. Right. So the final structure is say, moving on. How does the hydroskeleton of nematodes aid in? For this part, you can mention the two things: fluid contraction of longitudinal muscles and fluid pressure. So you can say, due to the combined effect of longitudinal muscles in the body wall and the fluid pressure in the body cavity or pseudocoelom. Okay, so you have to mention all of this. Only then you will get 1 point. Okay, for 1 point, you have to mention everything. Okay, so contribution of longitudinal muscles in the body wall and the fluid pressure in the pseudocoelom, or you can write body cavity. So if you write all of that, you'll get a point. Okay, answer this. What is the fusiform body shape of birds important for movement through air? For birds this time, why is it important? Yes. Why is the fusiform body shape of birds important for movement through air? Yes, it helps reduce the drag force. Okay, then name the two paired bones in the human cranium. Okay, look at this. Paired bones. Okay, what is that? Extreme velocity. Yes, you can either say drag force or you can say air resistance. Both are correct. Yes, parietal and temporal bone, they are paired. So ethmoid, sphenoid, and frontal unpaired. Okay, then and occipital is also unpaired. State a function of the human sternum other than support and protection of internal structures. Yes, please. Can you all tell me? Sternum. This is actually quite tricky because I think most of the people actually miss this point. Yes. Yes, it is a site for red blood cell production. Please don't say just blood cell production. Specifically mention red blood cell production, okay? So there's red bone marrow, red blood cell production. So write red blood cell production. Okay, then look at this. Name a degenerative non-inflammatory disease that causes pain in the joints of humans. What is that? Name a degenerative. Okay, that is osteoarthritis. Now take a look at this, guys. Okay, look, 2024. They've asked you, where is it? 2024. 2023. Okay, take a look. They've asked you about the human disorder associated with reduction of bone density. And then they've skipped a year. And then the following year, they've asked about degenerative non-inflammatory disease. So you can expect similar questions to 2024, right? Or they could ask you about slip disc condition, either slip disc condition, or they could ask you questions relating to sliding filament theory. Okay, so look, right? Right, now the last one. In the skeletal muscle contraction, what is required for breaking the existing cross bridges to begin new cross bridge cycles? What is that? In skeletal muscle contraction, what is required? Yes, binding of a new ATP molecule to myosin head. So you can either say that or you can simply write ATP. just writing ATP will also give you the mark. Okay, now look at this again, once again. 2023. Look at this question. What is the number of ATP utilized by a myosin head in one cross-bridge cycle in skeletal muscle contraction, right? So you wrote one there, and then they have skipped 2024, and again 2025. They've asked in skeletal muscle contraction what is required for breaking the existing cross-bridge cycle. So the answer is ATP. So you can see how the questions are repeating, but it's slightly different. Okay, so pay attention to that. Okay, anyways, so we will end today's session. Okay, hold on, give me a minute. Okay. Right. So I think this is like my very first A-level seminar. Like I haven't done one before this. So please give me a feedback and let me know in which areas I can improve myself. Okay. So I hope it was useful. So yes, it was basically like a speed revision because now it's just 3 hours, right? So we can't go into deeper details, but since all of you all probably would have done the lesson and you would have done enough questions, I hope this was much better. Like y'all must have now I think you can do any questions. Okay, so any doubts if you all have, anything y'all want to ask or get clarified? Do y'all want maybe another session? So I want to know in which area y'all might want it in, like another lesson. Maybe we could do the whole lesson, or we could slow down on certain parts, go into deeper details if the particular lesson is difficult. So may I? Papers. So y'all want to do past papers, is that so? So do y'all want a paper discussion or something? Okay, you want to do more papers now? Now I'm not sure. I'll have to go. I mean, we can do more sessions. So if there's another lesson or another area, or if you all want more papers, then you can suggest. So one person said papers. What about the others? Yeah, I think doing papers are much better, no? Okay, then we can maybe have another session with maybe a paper. We can do a past paper, and we can discuss the whole paper. All right then. Okay, 2024 papers. Okay, then let's have another session. I'll inform about the dates and everything. So we are going to be doing a 2020. So are you okay with 2024 paper? If it's okay, okay, then right, then y'all can drop a message to the number, right? The Elevate Academy number, and whoever wants this discussion, y'all can text her, and yeah, we can do another session then. Okay, then I hope it was useful, and thank you so much for staying till the end. Then good night and good luck for your paper.